A simple woman was mocked at Jiu-Jitsu class, then choked out the champion in 14 seconds. She walked in looking like a joke. Torn hoodie, faded sneakers, wrinkles of time and hardship carved into her face. They laughed. They mocked. They called her Granny Grappler. No one imagined that the woman they tried to humiliate was once a name whispered with awe in underground gyms across 3 continents. This isn't a story of redemption, it's a story of reckoning. Before we start the story, write in the comments from which part of the world you're watching today. They laughed when she walked in. That was their first mistake. It was a humid Tuesday afternoon in Austin, the kind of heat that presses on your ribs and makes your skin itch. The doors of the Wolf Den Jiu-Jitsu Academy hissed open, and in stepped a figure that didn't belong. Clara Wynn looked like a woman who had taken the wrong bus. Her hoodie was thrift store grey, stained at the cuffs. Her shoes, battered cross-trainers with laces tied unevenly. Her face, lean and tired, had the kind of wrinkles that come from surviving more than aging. She carried no gym bag, only a second-hand drawstring sack slung across her shoulder. Heads turned, first out of curiosity, then amusement. The front desk kid, maybe 19, gave her a once-over and smirked. "You lost, Mom." Clara didn't blink. "Here for the fundamentals class." "You sure?" he said, letting the sarcasm stretch. "This isn't yoga." She gave a nod and walked past him. The mat space was large, pristine, filled with framed photos of medals and tournaments. On the far side, watching her like a hawk watches a rabbit, stood Marcus Wolf, head instructor, former national champion, and self-proclaimed king of the Austin grappling scene. He was tall, shaved head, heavy brow. He had a jaw built for commands and a voice like stone breaking. When he saw her, his lip curled. "What's this?" he called out. The room stilled. "We letting in homeless people now?" Laughter, nervous at first, then louder. Clara looked at him, then at the line of students kneeling respectfully on the edge of the mat. They were young, fit, polished. Rash guards with brand logos, belts tied perfectly, posture drilled to perfection. She stepped onto the mat barefoot. A ripple of discomfort moved through the students. Marcus pointed at her shoes, then at the door. "We don't train charity cases. I paid for a month," she said calmly. "Receipts in your email." "White belts line up," Marcus barked. He turned his back. "Let her break something." What followed wasn't training, it was theater. She was paired with a teenage boy who had clearly been told to go hard. He flung her down with a clumsy throw. She hit the mat with a thud, audible across the room. Gasps. Clara didn't react. No grunt, no twitch. Then came the drills. They paired her with partners who yanked, slammed, twisted, all under the thin veil of technique. No one corrected them, least of all Marcus. At water break, someone tipped a bottle onto her back. She said nothing, just sat in the corner, breathing slowly, drying her face with her sleeve. By the end of the session, her knees were scraped, lips bleeding. Her belt, borrowed, stiff and cheap, was loose around her waist. As she gathered her things, a girl with a purple belt walked past and hissed, "You're embarrassing yourself. Go home." Marcus stood in front of her at the door. "You'll quit by Thursday," he said. "They all do." "I'm not they," Clara replied. He tilted his head. "You don't belong here." She looked up at him, and for the first time something flickered behind her eyes. Not anger, not pride, just a strange kind of patience. "I've heard that before," she said. Then walked out into the Texas dusk. They watched her leave, amused and certain. They didn't know the storm had already started. They thought they were breaking her. But Clara Wynn was already broken and rebuilt differently. By the second week, the abuse had graduated from snide remarks to deliberate sabotage. It started with the locker. Someone had smeared peanut butter inside it. Her thrift store clothes were crumpled, damp and reeking when she pulled them out after class. No one admitted it. Everyone knew who did it. Then it was her water bottle, emptied and filled with vinegar. Then her shoes, thrown onto the roof of the adjacent building. She didn't react. That drove them mad. Every academy has a culture, and Marcus Wolf had built his like a cult. Toughness wasn't taught, it was enforced. Weakness wasn't corrected, it was punished. The white belts mimicked the purples. The purples mimicked Marcus, And Marcus, he mimicked no one. He was the mountain they all tried to climb by stepping on each other. And here was Clara, sitting in silence, not even pretending to climb. On the mats, things were worse. During rolling in sparring sessions at the end of class, she was routinely paired with aggressive men who saw her as a soft target. They cranked submissions fast and dirty. Armbars wrenched past the tap. Crossfaces rubbed her skin raw. One even slapped her mid-roll and claimed it was part of the technique. Marcus watched and smirked. "She doesn't tap," he joked one evening. "Maybe she likes it rough." Laughter, then silence when she stood up slowly, adjusted her belt, and walked back to the line. No retort, no complaint. Just more of that unnerving stillness. People started calling her names. Not to her face anymore. That had lost its charm. But behind her back. Barista BJJ? Grappling grandma? Tatami witch? The most common? The ghost. She's like a ghost, man. You slam her, crank her neck, she just lies there. It's creepy. But one evening something shifted. Clara was paired with Vanessa, a strong blue belt with sharp elbows and sharper words. Vanessa hated Clara more than most. Maybe because she couldn't provoke her. Maybe because Marcus liked watching Vanessa go too far. They rolled, Vanessa kneed her in the ribs early. Hard, maybe a crack. The room flinched. Clara didn't stop. Vanessa mounted her, slapped her ear, then whispered, "Tap, you pathetic old..." But before the insult landed, something happened. Clara bridged, not wild, not fast, mechanical, precise. She reversed the mount in a movement that looked too clean, too controlled. Vanessa, startled, fought back harder, but Clara adjusted, not fast but efficiently, like someone solving a puzzle she'd already solved 1,000 times. No one noticed, because Clara didn't finish. She let the roll end with a passive sweep, nothing that drew attention. But Vanessa's face afterward, pale, unsure, was different. Marcus noticed. He called her out that night in front of everyone. "Listen, Ghost," he said, voice rising. "You think you're better than us because you can take a beating? That's not toughness. That's stupidity. You think this place owes you respect. You haven't earned anything." Clara stood silent. "Say something," he shouted. Still nothing. She just stared at him, long, measured, as if calculating. That stare shook something in him, only for a moment. Then the mask came back. He laughed and turned away. The room buzzed afterward. "She's weird," someone muttered. "I think she's a psycho." "Maybe she used to be a nun," another joked, "or a hitman's mom." One student, a quiet brown belt named Devon, watched her carefully that night as she cleaned the mats after everyone else had left. He didn't say anything, but he didn't laugh anymore either. By the third week, Clara's face bore small scars. Her hands were raw, her ribs bruised deep purple. But something was different. She no longer sat in the corner. She started drilling moves, alone, quietly. Movements they hadn't taught in class. Transitions that didn't belong in the beginner's syllabus. Escapes that weren't part of any white belt curriculum. Devin saw it. One night he stayed late under the guise of extra reps. Watched her flow from deep half-guard into X-guard, sweep, transition to a knee slice, and end in a mounted triangle, in one fluid chain. No beginner moved like that. He didn't ask. But he didn't sleep that night either. And still, the pressure escalated. One evening, Clara's bag disappeared. Her ID, money, and even her belt were gone. She searched the locker room in silence. Students passed by without eye contact. Marcus stood near the door, arms crossed. "You gonna cry, Ghost?" She shook her head. "Good," he said, "'cause the world doesn't care about your tears." That night, she walked home. It was 3 miles. Raining. Her hoodie soaked through, sticking to her spine like second skin. She didn't run. She didn't shield herself. She just walked. On the sidewalk, a homeless man looked at her and offered his only blanket. She smiled. "Keep it. You've earned it." He stared at her for a long time. At the academy, the students grew restless. "She's still here," one complained. "Why won't she just quit?" "Maybe she doesn't feel pain," another said. Marcus remained confident. "Sooner or later," he said, "they all snap. Especially the quiet ones." But Marcus didn't understand. Clara Wynne wasn't waiting for a breakdown. She was waiting for a date. And that date was marked in red in her head. A Saturday, public sparring day, guest visitors, open matches, cameras, spectators, a perfect audience. She wasn't the one being tested, she was testing them. The best trap is the one where your enemy thinks they're the hunter. The morning of the open sparring event was bright, cloudless, and humming with tension. Once a month, Wolf Den held an invite day, a public exhibition of its students' skill. Friends came to watch, rival gyms sent scouts. Cameras were set up, Instagram stories loaded, everything was choreographed to reinforce one thing, that Marcus Wolf's academy was untouchable. The mats were packed, sweaty bodies rolled and clashed like waves, laughter and grunts filled the air, music thumped softly in the background, rhythmic, pulsing. Clara sat on the edge, unnoticed. She wore the same faded hoodie, no belt, just black training pants and a calmness that clung to her like mist. She'd come early. She always did. She watched them all warm up, perform, preen. The veterans pretended not to see her. The white belts pretended not to care. The purples laughed openly, and then Marcus saw her. His face lit up. He turned to one of his stars, Tomas, or Tommy Tank as they called him. A broad-shouldered, 2-meter-tall, shredded purple belt who trained like he had something to prove and fought like he didn't care what broke. "You want a warm-up match?" Marcus asked, loud enough for all to hear. Tommy grinned. "Against what? That coat rack?" Laughter. "She's still coming here?" someone murmured. "She's basically our mascot," said another. Tommy walked over and stretched his neck. "All right, Granny Grappler, show me that deadly arthritis." Clara stood. No smile, no retort. She stepped onto the mat like she was stepping into a kitchen. Casual, controlled. Someone handed her a loner belt, another cheap white. She tied it neatly, the way they teach kids. Her hair, wet from a morning rinse, hung low over her shoulders. Marcus clapped his hands. "Let's go. Full roll, no points. No rounds." The crowd leaned in. Phones were lifted. The match began. Tommy charged like a rhino, hands low, smiling, then shot for a body lock. That was his first mistake. Clara pivoted, stepped off the center line, and latched onto his collar with her right hand. Her left hooked the sleeve. Then, in a movement so fast the cameras barely caught it, she pulled guard, inverted, wrapped her legs behind his neck, and locked in a triangle choke. Tommy resisted for 4 seconds. By the 5th, his hands were flailing. By the 7th, he gurgled. By the 10th, his eyes began to roll. On the 14th second, he went limp. Gasps, shouts. Marcus stepped forward, too slow. Clara unwrapped her legs, let Tommy drop gently to the mat, and stood. Silence. Only the whir of a fan overhead and the sound of someone's phone hitting the floor. She reached into her drawstring bag and pulled something out. It was a belt. Not white, not borrowed. It was deep black, soft with age, frayed at the tips. On one end was embroidered a name in gold thread, Clara Wynne. On the other, IBJJF, Pan Am champion. No one moved. She tied it on slowly, as if to remind them, this was never about skill, it was about permission. Marcus stared, his jaw tight. "What game are you playing?" Clara looked him in the eye. "No game," she said. "I'm just done pretending." One purple belt stepped forward, Jorge, stocky and smug. "Bull." Before the word finished, Clara turned. Jorge lunged. She ducked under, slipped behind, swept him into side control, and wrapped him in a bow and arrow choke. He tapped in 3 seconds. 3. Clara stood. Another one came. Vanessa. She was faster, angrier. Clara flowed under her weight, took the back, flattened her with a gift wrap, and locked in an Ezekiel choke using Vanessa's own lapel. Vanessa tapped. A third tried, then a fourth. Clara dismantled them, one by one, fast, technical, precise. She didn't fight like a legend. She fought like a ghost, appearing behind them, choking the air from their lungs, then vanishing. Marcus was frozen. He didn't blink until the 6th tap echoed off the walls. Then Clara turned to the room. "I trained in Rio," she said, her voice calm, even. "At a favela gym that made this place look like a spa. I fought in Tokyo, where they bow before and after they try to break your neck. I medaled at the Pan Ams twice, and I disappeared. She looked around. No social media, no gym, no followers. Just time. Time to watch how this art I love became a trophy case for cowards in rash guards. Then she faced Marcus. You let them humiliate me. You told them to. You taught them that strength comes from laughing at weakness. That's not jiu-jitsu. That's rot. Marcus stepped forward, eyes narrowed. You lied to us. You lied to them, she said. The room was still, phones forgotten. A student in the back whispered, She's the real thing. Clara looked out over them all. None of you ever asked who I was. You just saw an old woman in cheap shoes. She took off the black belt, folded it neatly, and placed it on the mat. You don't deserve to see it. Then she walked out, not fast, not dramatic, just gone, like she had never been there, but she had. And everyone would remember exactly what 14 seconds looked like when real jiu-jitsu walked through the door. It wasn't revenge, it was correction. The video spread fast, 14 seconds, triangle choke, out cold. Then clip after clip, a string of lightning-fast submissions, one after another, each opponent tapping or sleeping in under 10 seconds. No screaming, no blood, no trash talk. Just clean, terrifying control. By the time the sun set that same day, the footage had reached forums, group chats, gym feeds, even rival academies. Who is she? Did you see that, Ezekiel? That's not beginner flow. Is this a stunt? No one could find a recent competition record. Only fragments, old match sheets from Pan Am's nearly a decade ago. Mentions of a K-win training under Mestre Otavio in Brazil, then disappearing. Whispers of injuries, personal tragedy. Silence. But none of that mattered now, because what mattered was fear. The next morning, half the white belts didn't show up. 2 blue belts dropped out of the group chat, citing work stuff. By noon, sponsors had started making calls. The gym's social page was flooded with comments. What a disgrace. You let your students gang up on a black belt? She made your whole program look like a daycare with bullies. Marcus Wolf tried to get ahead of it. He posted a carefully worded video. We welcome all skill levels. We believe in respect, no matter someone's age or background. What happened yesterday was unexpected. He didn't apologize. That was his second mistake, because Clara wasn't done. That evening, she returned. No announcement, no fanfare. She walked into the gym like she was going to pick up a forgotten key. Calm, focused. Marcus was teaching a fundamentals class. His voice faltered when he saw her in the doorway. He blinked. Clara, he said flatly, what do you want? Correction. The class went dead quiet. I'm not here to fight you, she said. I'm here to expose you. She walked across the mat and looked at the line of students. Some turned away. Some couldn't meet her eyes. But others, the quiet ones, watched closely. Devin among them. You want to be fighters, she said to the room. Then learn what fighting is. She pointed to the purples, the loudest, the boldest. Each of you, one by one. Marcus scoffed. You think this is a dojo drama? No, I think this is truth. You humiliated me. You all laughed. You took part. Now you'll see what you laughed at. She rolled up her sleeves. One of the purple belts, Jason, big and smug, stepped forward, tried to laugh it off. You think you can run through all of us again? She tilted her head. Try. He did. He shot for a takedown strong and fast. Clara sprawled, spun behind, took the back mid-motion and locked a seatbelt grip. Jason rolled. She let him. Then, transition, bow and arrow choke. Again, 7 seconds. He tapped. She let go, didn't look at Marcus, just motioned. Next, they came, one after another, a spinning lapel choke, a sneaky arm triangle, a transition from half guard to mounted crucifix. Each opponent ended on the mat, wheezing, tapping, begging. No pain, no injuries, just technique. Pure, perfect technique. When Vanessa tried again, furious and embarrassed, Clara didn't even finish the choke. She took side control, trapped the arm, whispered, You're strong. Learn how to be precise. Then let her go. Vanessa sat up, eyes wide, not afraid, ashamed. And then Marcus stepped forward. The room drew in its breath. He was taller, stronger, angry. "This is still my gym," he growled. Clara nodded. "That's the problem." He rushed in. It was ugly, powerful but reckless. Clara ducked under, latched onto his belt, and swept him backward in a flawless flower sweep. He landed flat. She mounted, controlled. Took the arm, didn't break it, just held it. He didn't tap, he froze. She leaned in, voice barely above a whisper. "You taught them to laugh at weakness. You mistook silence for submission. You built a cult, not a school." She let go. He rolled away, breath heaving, red-faced. And Clara stood up. "You're not a leader. You're a bouncer with delusions." She turned to the class. "I'm not opening a gym. I'm not staying." This was never about a comeback. This was a reminder. Silence. Then Devin stepped forward. He bowed. Others followed, even Vanessa. Later, as Clara laced her old sneakers and tied her hoodie back on, a white belt approached her. "You're not staying?" he asked. She shook her head. "Why?" She smiled. "Because the ones who stay and rebuild, that's you." And then she walked out the same way she came in. But now the door didn't close behind her. It stayed open. She didn't leave for applause. She left for silence. The Wolf Den closed its doors 3 weeks later. Not officially, not all at once. But the unraveling was swift and public. Sponsors pulled their logos. Rival gyms posted thinly veiled jabs. The student body withered, week by week, not from embarrassment, but from the sudden awareness that they had followed a fraud. Marcus tried to pivot. He filmed technique videos, talked about humility and learning experiences, claimed it had all been a lesson, part of a larger philosophy. But the mat remembers, and no one forgot the look on his face when Clara Wynne took him down like a disobedient child. By the end of the month, he was teaching cardio classes out of a strip mall gym 30 minutes outside Austin. No GIs, no belts, no hierarchy to fall from. Just sweat. And silence. The video, the original 14-second clip, lived on. It circulated in private message threads, late-night YouTube rabbit holes, and closed martial arts forums. No flashy thumbnails, no monetized content. Just the raw truth of it. The comments were always the same. No wasted movement. She made it look inevitable. That wasn't luck, that was restraint. People tried to find her. They searched for gym affiliations, old coaches, past teammates. A few found the Pan Am archive footage. Grainy, beautiful. A younger Clara in a red gi, breathing through her nose, finishing a match in under a minute, then bowing and walking away before her name was even announced. There was no follow-up. No comeback, no seminars, no online course. She didn't give interviews, she didn't open a school, she vanished. Again. Except for one place. Early in the morning, before the city began to hum, you could sometimes find her at the small public park near South Congress. No mats, just grass, dust, and silence. She moved alone. Shadow grappling, flowing through sequences with invisible partners, guard passes, transitions, submissions. Slow, fluid, flawless, old hoodie. Same shoes, hair down, no music, no timer, no audience, just her and the wind. Sometimes kids would stop and watch. One tried to ask her if she taught classes. She shook her head, smiled and said, "The tatami isn't a stage. It's a mirror." Another time, a young woman with a black eye from a bad gym sat nearby and watched her in silence. Clara walked over, handed her a small notebook and said, "Write down what you want to be. Then train like it's already true." That was it. The woman never saw her again. People gave her a name, the Tatami Ghost, not out of fear, out of reverence. She became a myth told in whispers among real practitioners, those who knew that belts fade, muscles shrink, and medals collect dust. But precision survives, purpose survives, dignity survives. She didn't need a legacy. She left a warning. Don't make the mat a place where you punish weakness. Make it a place where you outgrow it. One day, a drone caught footage of a figure training barefoot near a tree just before sunrise. No logos, no camera setup. The video lasted 12 minutes. No words, just movement. It went viral, but no one claimed it. No one needed to. Because everyone who watched it said the same thing. That's her.